Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Bari.
And I'm Jen.
Today we're going to be talking about a subject that was highly requested by our listeners. The subject is women cheating on husbands with other women. And it's not just listeners. I feel like in my everyday life, I go out with girlfriends. The conversation always turns to this topic. Way too often. What is this? Like, what is going on? What do you call this?
My wife and I were talking last night, and it's late life lesbians.
You're gay?
I am. I'm sorry.
I didn't know you were gay.
I never told you.
No.
I'm a lesbian.
No, I know that Jen is gay. And in fact, I always say, I tease Jen, and I say, Jen, you are a lousy lesbian.
Why do you always call me
You
a
know
lousy? You always call me a lousy lesbian.
Because you are a lousy lesbian. Why are you a lousy? Now you got me saying, why are you a lousy lesbian?
Why? Because every once in a while I make fun of a lesbian?
Not just that.
Because I don't have a gold star?
You're definitely not a gold star.
I
You're
am
getting
not.
warmer.
So because I've been with men, because I've had sex with a man before?
Yeah. And more than I have. More men than I have.
That's not saying much.
It isn't, and I'll be the first to admit that. In fact, since we're talking about lesbians, my mother once asked me, "Are you a lesbian?"
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did. But I'm very modest. Like, I don't parade around. That's why I could never be a lesbian. I'm just not free enough. I feel like lesbians are very free. Like, I am the clown in the women's locker room at the spa or at the gym, and it's like I'm doing like some weird Houdini shit. Like, I have like a robe, and then the towel is
hiding
on,
out.
and the towel comes off, and it's like the women walking around, just everything flying everywhere. I would like to be that way, but I'm very modest. And my mother has never seen me naked. And one day she flat out asked me, she's like, "Are you a lesbian?" And I was like, "No, I'm not a lesbian. Just no boys like me." I know. It was sad.
It's my mom asked me at a young age, and I was like, "Why?" Because I play sports. But at that time, I really didn't think I was. And society has changed so much. But in our generation of growing up, it wasn't talked about. It wasn't in movies. It really wasn't out. So at those ages, I didn't know. And later in life, when I did come out to my mom, she cried. She said, "Well, I want you to get married and I want you to have kids." And I'm like, "Mom, I could still do that." But hey, it is what it is. I mean, I just enjoyed being with a woman. And we could talk about that more.
So, but I can understand that. Just like talking to my girlfriends, it really, and this subject of women leaving their husbands for other women really highlights the biological differences between men and women. And I think like you just said, it's when I'm out with my friends, all they talk about is, "Oh, wouldn't it be great if we lived on this land and we had a tent for us and then like a tent for the guys and we could just go over there and have sex once in a while and whatever." See, for women, men are like just driven by sex. Whereas women, it's just they want that emotional connection. They like being together. They like hugging. They like kissing each other.
Yeah.
They're very feeling. They're very emotional. They like feeling supported. And, for women, and sex specifically, like, it makes me wonder, are these late life lesbians, is it about sex or is it about just being with a woman? Like,
Maybe
getting
just
out of
connection.
a connection, getting out of a relationship where there is a male figure that maybe is controlling, isn't supportive, isn't emotionally connected, a little detached, not wanting to talk about shopping and things that I like, stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
But more sincere.
I mean, it's really cool if you find a woman and these women aren't happy in their marriage, and then all of a sudden they're hanging out with their friend and they're going shopping and they love those things and they're building this relationship together, and who knows, they have a couple drinks and they kiss that one day and it's just something different for them.
Does that excuse the fact that at the end of the day they're still cheating? Do you think it's different just because you're cheating with the same sex?
Well, cheating is cheating, I believe and it doesn't matter who you are with. Like if you're in a committed relationship and you cheat on someone, it's cheating. But everybody has their own little thing. And there's
I have a theory about that.
What?
I have a feeling about this. And
What do you
I think a lot, and honestly, I didn't know how many people disagreed with me until I actually brought it up, which was stupid. I'll never speak my mind again. But I did. In my 20 years of doing this, I have never had a case where a woman was looking for help because she suspected that her husband was cheating with a man. I'm not saying it never happened. I never got that call. However, I've gotten many calls where a husband thinks his wife is cheating with another woman. So I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've been thinking about this, and I have...
You want to be with a woman?
No, I don't want to be with anybody. I'm good. I have
asexual.
I'm asexual. I think I always thought about this, and like you said, cheating is terrible.
Right.
But I don't think if I found out my husband was having an affair with a man, I would not be as affected as if I found he was having an affair with a woman. I think. For women specifically, and I'm sure men feel this way too, that like when you are cheated on, not that you make it about the other person, but you can't help but to compare or wonder why they decided to, break the relationship for that person. Is she prettier? Is she skinnier? Is she fatter? Is she richer? Is she nicer?
Right.
All of those things. If my husband said that he was leaving me for a man, or I caught him with a man, I would feel sad for him. Like, I would feel really bad. Like, of course, there'd be sadness in that, our marriage would be over the way that I know it, but it doesn't change our emotional connection. Maybe
Right.
just the physical, wasn't it for him? So I don't know. But I would think that that's his problem. That's his issue. Not a problem. But those are
Right.
his feelings. Nothing that I did. I could get behind that, and I would want to support him, and I would actually feel really bad that he felt like he had to pretend and live a lie and be with a woman. But, we have a great relationship otherwise, and I don't think I would be as affected that way. Well, I brought that up to a friend. For some reason, I thought other people felt the way I did, and that is not the case.
They would be pissed?
I brought this up to a friend one night. We were having a couple of drinks. I don't even know how the subject came up. I was probably teasing my husband or something. And I said to my girlfriend, if your husband cheated on you with a man, I'm like, you wouldn't be upset, right? You'd feel bad. And she's like, I would never even want to think about that. And I said, what? You never want to think about that? She's like, no, I would be devastated. I was like devastated for him, right? Like, because he was living a lie. She's like, no, I don't even want to talk about this. I don't want to think about it. She just couldn't even bear the thought.
Oh my God.
I don't know. She must like to have a lot more sex than I do. I don't know. Maybe that's why I'm not so affected. I'm not sure what it is. So.
Aw.
Whatever. But women are very different than men, and for men, the physical intimacy is really important, whereas for women, emotional intimacy, I think, is for them just is more important for most women to have that physical intimacy.
Yes, and I think
that emotional intimacy. Go ahead.
Right, and for women, when we are young children, we are accustomed to this life of our mom saying to us, oh, I can't wait for the day you get married. I have my wedding dress. I'm going to share it with you. I can't wait. We're going to buy flowers and we're going to have cake and we're going to do all this stuff. Not your mom,
no,
why?
because she probably thought I was a lesbian. But go ahead. That's why she never said it.
There's this pressure for young women to get married to a man and have a house and the picket fence and the children and the dog, and they get that. And then later on in life, they're not happy. But they do those things because they think that they have to. And a lot has changed over the years, a lot. I mean, from our generation of growing up to what it is today. I mean, the kids today go to school and they're learning all this stuff that we didn't learn about. Growing up, we knew gay or straight.
Right. Nothing in between.
And as we got maybe closer to high school, then we started hearing about bisexuality. But even it was so rare. It wasn't talked about. It's if you were gay, if you were a lesbian, you had to figure this stuff out on your own. Okay? And
I feel like there's a lot of pressure to have an identity that is, whatever that is. It was before, it was just kind of like it wasn't something that necessarily was talked about. It wasn't discussed. You know what I mean? You were what you were. Yeah. And if you felt like you were something different, you kind of kept that to yourself. Yes. Like you didn't really talk about it and you figured it out.
Right.
You went through life, and I guess you figured it out.
Yeah, I did figure it out, but I figured it out and I dated guys.
Because you definitely weren't gay in high school, I remember.
I definitely wasn't gay in high school. I had a lot of boyfriends, and the really cute ones that Bari didn't have.
That was mean.
Sorry.
But true. But anyway.
But, I'm sorry if any of my ex-boyfriends are watching this right now, but even the ones I really, really liked, there just was a little something missing. And I didn't know what that was. And as I got older, I started feeling like, even more something different. I don't know. And then when I went to college, that's when it hit me. Like, not hit me, but, going out and with my friends to different clubs and stuff, have a drink, and then all of a sudden I'm kissing one of my friends. I'm like, this is fun, So it got really serious when I went to college. And I started dating women there, and I had my first girlfriend, and I experienced all these girls that wanted to kiss me or play spin a bottle with me or whatever. And I started realizing, oh my God, there's so many lesbians here. But they weren't. They were just trying to have fun. They were open-minded. And us lesbians, me and my friends.
The real lesbians,
they were called lugs. Lesbian until graduation. So my first girlfriend, that's basically what happened. I really liked her. She broke up with me. I'm never going to be a lesbian, And now watch, probably in 10 more years, she'll divorce her husband and say, guess what?
He'll
I'm
be calling
lesbian. And whatever. But, things change. And, when I told my mom at a later age than some girls get to tell their parents, and I was scared. I was scared of the rude comments I was going to get, the stereotypical words that...
You are not a typical lesbian.
No, I don't...
You're special.
I'm special. Is that why I'm a lousy lesbian?
That's why you're
But... and I was scared. I didn't want to be called a carpet muncher. I didn't want to be... There was all these words and all these things, and I didn't want people to think something was wrong with me, because back then, that's what they said, and that's what they did. And I remember I was 25 years old, and I'm 47 now, so you could do the math. I told my mom and dad, well, my mom first, Mom, I got to tell you something. Oh, my God, I don't know how to tell you this, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, what? You're a lesbian? She was so pissed off. And if you know my mom, Jackie, she pulled out that Italian flair and was like, oh. And she started crying. And she said, I want you to have a wedding. I can't, kids. And I said, Mom, I could have that, and later on down the road, when she started understanding it, my mom and dad came to the Pride Parade and celebrated. I had other people coming up to me like, you know how lucky you are? My parents threw me out and stuff like that. So there's so many crazy stories, but, I was special and I was lucky, but I was scared. And it was very hard.
So do you think a lot of these, this is very common. I mean, we're, a business, a small business.
Right.
And the amount of times we're asked to, find out if somebody's wife is cheating with another woman, it's pretty common. I mean, just based on the ratio, it's definitely way more common. Do you think, based on what you just said, do you think these women were always lesbians and were afraid, or do you think they're just like they've developed based on their environment, like a product of their environment?
I think it can kind of go both ways. I think it can go both ways, but if you look and celebrities are the best because their stuff's all over it out in the public, but you can see and read about some that really did have feelings or thought something weird about women, but had to keep going to that lifestyle because it looks good on paper. It looked good on TV. It looks good to family. And then you have the opposite where the husband's cheating, being mean and abusive, and it's the environment, like you said. So I do think that, women can have feelings before they get married to a man.
So you think it's about sex?
I think a lot of it has to do about sex.
Spoken like a true lesbian. You are not a lousy lesbian. I take that back. See, now somebody like me, I'm thinking like, just be nice or relax, be with someone that supports you. And I mean, that is a common, look, the world is a very different place.
Yeah.
It's definitely, it's much more progressive, especially in terms of sexuality and things like that. Like you mentioned, celebrities coming out, like they're coming out, like you feel like every other day, someone is now a lesbian. Sophia Bush or Kyle Richards from the Housewives of Beverly Hills or
Rebel Wilson.
Rebel Wilson, another one, right? So I definitely think they're setting the tone. The tone is set. I mean, you have people that are celebrities in the limelight coming out and saying, hey, I presented myself this way all along, but I might be a lesbian.
Yeah.
I might be a lesbian. To be a game show, and you might be a lesbian.
I want to be a lesbian.
I want to be a lesbian too. Anyway, so I definitely think that stigma that you experience.
Yes.
I mean, you have such a great story.
Yeah.
I could hear it 100 times. I love your story about being a lesbian. And I think that stigma, you must be very happy that, you had a good experience, but you know of many who did not.
Yes,
so
I
it's
do.
nice to know that, male or female, there is that acceptance that is there now that wasn't there before.
Yeah, and today there is a bigger acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And I know so many people that were scared, that left home, lived on the streets because they didn't know how their parents were going to react. I had one of my very first friends that I was working with her at the time, and I walked into work one day and I said, I got to tell you something. And she's like, what? I go, I'm a lesbian. She goes, I know. I knew it the whole time. But when she told me her story, her parents checked her into a mental hospital.
Wow. That's serious.
It's very serious. And there are stuff that it still happens like that.
Yeah, there's of course there's people that are not as accepting, and there's plenty of people that are. And I think that that's why I've definitely noticed, especially at work, more of a trend of women saying, I'm done with this life. I'm moving on to a new one. Although I still have that question. Physical intimacy, or is it emotional intimacy? Because I got to tell you, like, in these cases, we wouldn't handle them any different than any other cheating case.
No, there's nothing different.
But what is especially similar is it's usually a partner that is, many times we get a call from people, and my client, I feel like saying to them, I can understand why somebody might be cheating on you. They're not they're not the greatest. Like, they're very controlling. You could tell that they could be like borderline abusive, that, and especially the control aspect, and they're not supportive.
Right. So they're not supportive, they're controlling, but they still expect you to have sex with them. And you're supposed to just...
I didn't say they were smart.
Right. So these women are unhappy. Mm-hmm. They find another female that they find interest in. That female finds interest in them, and they have an emotional connection. Now, once they start having sex, maybe it's totally different for them and they like it. For me, it is completely
I don't want to hear
different.
this.
Sorry. Sorry.
You know I'm modest.
But in general, yes. I mean, it's an emotional thing. It's an emotional attachment, and and it can turn into more intimate things, but
Yes, this is what men don't get. Emotional intimacy leads to physical intimacy 8 out of 10 times.
yeah, they don't get it. They don't get it.
So this actually makes me think of a case that, was memorable to me because it was exactly this situation. We had a client call us. Wife was cheating. He suspected from the get-go it was a woman. Now, I remember the attorney who referred this client to us was kind of like, listen, I'm going to tell you, Benji, he's very difficult. He's just like a super difficult client. Like, he doesn't listen. He's not going to want to hear what you have to say. I'm like, okay, this sounds terrific. I'll take the case.
Terrific.
Sounds right up my alley. So sure enough, that's exactly how he presented.
Right.
He was very controlling. He knew it all. He knew everything. He was very rich, like a multimillionaire, like very, very rich. He was in business. His wife was in business. They kind of did some business together. She did her own thing. He did his own thing as well. He supported her mostly. The money was from him. And he suspected that she was having an affair with a woman. And I said, well, why are you thinking that? And he's like, well, she wants a divorce. He's like, I don't want this divorce. She wants a divorce. And every time I go to her house, this woman's car is in the driveway. And she said they're just friends. He's like, but I don't believe it. And he's like, and not only do I think that she's having an affair with this woman. This is not her friend. She's totally having an affair. I think they're going to be together when I get divorced. And I think they are in business together. And I was like, whoa, all right, this is a lot. I like this. All right, this is good. So I said, all right, well, Benji, we're going to do this obviously we're going to do some surveillance on her. And we did. And of course, they lived in like the most difficult neighborhood you could possibly imagine. It was really tough, like showing that the girlfriend's car was there overnight and all this stuff. But then it started to get more fluid and we were getting a lot more activity. And what we figured out the routine, and then we would follow the presumed girlfriend.
Right.
And she would go off and she would go to this. They were in a retail business.
Yes.
And she was opening a store, a brand new store. And she went to the store. And we followed her, so we knew what store she was working at.
Right.
Then the next day, we followed the wife of our client. And where did she go?
To the store.
She went to the store the next day. So there were certain days she would stay with the kids. Certain days she would go to the store. We hit it. We got her going to the store.
Right.
And so the store wasn't open yet. It was like this flagship store they were
Right.
opening, and they were preparing like all of these different things. They were having like a grand opening, like this soft opening event thing, and planning all of these things. And our client's wife was an integral part, even though the girlfriend, who we had no proof they were girlfriends, they could have just been business partners at that point. We had no proof of that. Even though she was the one that was in more so in the retail business, our client's wife had a lot to offer. She was in hospitality. She did all these things, and she was helping her plan all this. They were clearly in business together, and we saw them on the laptop together, and they were doing work, and she was there for hours. And finally, on like the third day of seeing this, the girlfriend of our client's wife had to stay overnight, and our client's wife had to go home and be with the kids. Come out to the parking lot, and she very romantic embrace and kiss goodbye. So we knew at that point. Look, I'm not the most affectionate person in the world ever, but I know like an extra hug and a kiss when I see one. So it was extra, it was not friends. It was more, and that was it, and we got her.
I mean, that is so similar to the other case that we had too. And they actually work together too.
So what do you think it is? Do you think it's like trying to escape like that figure, whether it be male or female. I mean, there's certainly like, everyone thinks like, oh, like, homosexual relationships are so different and better than like a heterosexual one, when lesbians are totally jealous people. Like, they're more jealous than heterosexual people.
I'm definitely jealous.
But
I don't like anybody near my wife. Don't talk to my wife, whatever.
You're a typical jealous lesbian.
Well, especially if a guy comes over to her, I'm like, excuse me, are you talking to my wife? But
do you think they're trying to escape that, especially what's so weird in both these cases where they were in, doing business with their new partner, trying to escape that domineering, controlling man who's telling them what to do, who's not supportive to them or emotionally connected to them. It make for a better business partner.
I mean,
not just love and business.
Listen, I mean, in some cases, yes, it's absolutely what it is. They're at home getting yelled at, and they're telling this person that they work with all the stuff that's happening at home.
That's what happened with that case, right? What was that? What was that? Remind me of that one again.
This was the case where the two women had like matching cars.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, it was the same exact car. One was black and one was navy blue. So try to figure that out. I'm like, I don't know who's pulling out of the driveway of the garage or who's in there. And it was the same thing, following them. They would both leave the office together.
And she was lying. I mean, not only was she having an affair, she's like, she moved out of the house, and that's usually like the tip off where the guy is like, our client, if it's a man, is like, she moved out, she's got to have somebody else. God forbid anybody be independent. Why should we assume that? But unfortunately, in these two cases, they were living with someone else.
Yeah.
But she said she was living on her own. And that was a lie, because we had like staked out that house for like days and nights. Yep. She was never there. She didn't live there. In fact, we ended up finding out that she had a lease for like only 1 month, and she did that specifically just to
throw it off.
Yes, that's all she did. And then she was out of there. But where was she?
At the girlfriend's house.
Well, we didn't know that initially.
And I clearly remember following them to work. Mm-hmm. So I followed them to work. And then, I went home, and I came back at the end of the day to see what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, all of a sudden you would start seeing people come out of this building.
Right.
And okay, here we go. So now this whole group of females come out. And the client's wife is walking really slow with a group of girls over here. And then the girlfriend's walking with different girls over here. And so I don't know if it was open where they work. So you can kind of see that something was happening.
You mean open, like, did everyone at work know that they were
like,
together?
I don't think that maybe work knew. Mm-hmm. So they were trying to play it off with them. But I mean, you could see right through it. So, they would leave, and you'd follow one, and about 15 minutes later, then the other one would pull in. And, we eventually got that money shot kiss, and that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's easy for women to get away with. You could just say, oh, it's just a friend. And, it's got to get that money shot. Got to make sure.
Especially both cases are so similar that they're running business together. Mm-hmm. They're the two unhappy women who are getting divorced are, complaining or, opening up to this other female. And this other female is so different than a male. Mm-hmm. So now she's being like tender and helping her and making her feel good and special. And it's not that she's trying to persuade her into something, but she starts realizing, these clients soon to be, ex, that, hey, there's something better here for me. Actually, this is nice. So they wind up being a lesbian. Late life lesbians.
It's time for email of the week. So, hello. I am 52 years old and happily married to who I believe to be the love of my life. Recently, though, I've been feeling the urge to experiment with the same sex. I'd be okay including my husband in this, but I don't think he'd go for it. What's wrong with him? Do you have any advice for going forward with it without him knowing? I think this will actually help our marriage in the long run so I don't end up resenting him. Okay.
There
are so many red flags in this
many
email.
red
Okay. Now,
flags.
we're not therapists. We're not in the business of giving advice of what you should do. But the one advice that we always give, you don't cheat. It's never, same sex is cheating.
Wait a minute. She's basically asking us if it's okay if she can
if
cheat.
she cheats. Right.
And tell me how to cheat.
We're looking
Well,
at
we're not
this.
cheaters.
Right.
We catch cheaters.
Looking at this is no different than if she said she wanted to experiment with the same sex but a different guy. So, cheating is cheating. And I never advise that. Secrets in a relationship are bad.
It's bad.
Okay? You don't have them. Anything that you're doing in your life that you don't want to tell your partner, you should know you shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Okay? Anything. So when you're partners, you have a good relationship, open book. Overall, sounds like they have a good relationship, except this thing is nagging at her that she thinks this will help our marriage. And what's confusing to me is that she's going to resent him for her not exploring a side of her life.
Well,
she shouldn't have been a late life lesbian.
Well,
she should have did this earlier.
She should have. But she should also figure out what is pulling her away from her husband. Mm-hmm. There's got to be something else. There's something that's making her unhappy that she wants to go be with a woman.
Do you think that's what happened to Kyle Richards?
Probably. I mean,
they always presented themselves as like a happy couple and everything, and then all of a sudden you could see the change. Not that I like religiously watch the show, but I have seen clips and episodes, and I know the history there. And like all of a sudden she's like changing, and she's like, I think I want another tattoo. And he's like, don't you think that's enough? She's like, no. You're gonna stop me? I want more. Like I'm gonna be a different person now. Like, so she just break up. So it's not. So you know what? You don't need to hide. You don't need to.
Well, she didn't hide.
This listener could take a tip from Kyle and Mauricio here. And by that I mean, if Kyle really was interested in exploring a relationship with a woman, with Morgan Wade or anybody else, they're breaking up.
Right.
Break up. If you're going to cheat, it's going to lead to you breaking up. It's best if you have these feelings, like you said, there's something that's not right in the relationship, that you're actually, your direction, your feelings, your emotions are going somewhere else.
Right.
Something's not right. And you either have to address something in yourself or leave the marriage.
You're absolutely right. And I mean, even in this case, like,
never cheat.
She was even lying to her girlfriends, all those girls on the show and stuff. They're asking her questions like, oh, you're hanging out with Morgan all the time. I mean, I think they were a little jealous because, like, why are you hanging out with this girl all of a sudden all the time? And Kyle's at the front row of her concerts. And then she wants a tattoo. Morgan gave her a tattoo. Literally, a W on her leg.
See, I wouldn't want to do that with a girlfriend. But unless you know what I'm saying? No, I mean, like, I wouldn't do that with just someone who's my friend.
Right. So something was going on between them, as everybody knows. But, it's food for thought for all these cases. I mean, it's.
But the only advice here that I can give, because I'm not in a position of giving advice, like I said, in terms of, behavior, relationships, whatever. We're just observers.
Yeah.
But you never cheat. You never go behind your partner's back and cheat.
Nope.
Never. Very hard to recover.
And if you have that feeling that you need
to talk about it.
It's time to be brave, talk to them, get out of the situation, then go do all the things you want to do.
Right. Or if you're going to get out of it, you might as well have the conversation with them. He's either going to be down or he's not. And then, you'll take it from there.
You guys will separate and you could do your own thing.
Or maybe there'll be a throuple. Doesn't mean they have to separate.
Then he might even be happy.
Maybe he's unhappy too. Maybe we just solved the problem. You're a throuple now.
That's it.
So that's a wrap. Case closed. It was a fun one today.
Oh, this was such a fun episode. I'm so glad I came out officially on camera, on a mic.
Nobody knew you were a lesbian.
Nobody.
They thought I was the lesbian.
You were the lesbian and I was straight. Remember that. So we want to hear from you. Don't forget to send us an email at theprivateeyespodcast@gmail.com. Your email could be featured on one of our future episodes.